Florida band of all time, and someone that I think every Floridian and punk lover in the whole wide world should listen to is Glazed.
Glazed.
Yep, Glazed. And we just got done with a tour playing with our friends Glazed, who are incredible, who should be the biggest band in the world.
They are our best buds. Our first tour ever is hungover. We went out with them, and at first when we booked the tour, they were calling themselves Locals, and like maybe 2 weeks before the tour they announced that they were changing their name to Glazed. And when I met Justin for the first time, I said, why? And he said, because we don't hide anything from anyone. And that weekend I broke edge.
The origins of the band, I wish there was a better story to tell, but really we just were going to punk rock and hardcore shows at places that weren't supposed to have punk rock and hardcore shows. And through that, through us like advocating for ourselves to like enter a music scene that seemed interesting, we met each other and we started bands, and those bands broke up, and we started another band and that band broke up, and now we're here.
Special moment? I think just maybe the first time of us hitting the road. I think that was very special for me. Like it was 2014. Justin pretty much booked the whole thing. We were like 18, 19, 20 years old. We like split it with some friends in Orlando, hungover, we have a friend Austin that's on tour with us right now. And we were supposed to have a vehicle that was able to like take a trailer and everything. And I guess it was, I think the night before. Was it the night before that the vehicle got?
Yeah.
Yeah. The night before the vehicle situation went to whatever. It didn't work. And Justin had a 2-door Mercury Cougar that we ended up just collapsing everything as much as we could. Our merch box wouldn't fit, so we just threw merch in and placed it in places like that would just fit in the car. And just kind of really being able to, for the first time in my life, really go out on a limb and be able to like really entrust some people that weren't family. That turned in, I'd say, I mean, we felt like family before, but it's just something like that really solidifies your bond with people.
After one of our shows, I can't remember exactly which one, but it was some underbelly show. I don't know, but it was just the three of us, and it was a pretty big gig, and somebody had their child with them. It was like their first show. It was the child's first show. They're a young baby, and they brought their child to me after we played. Right? They were nice. They were really nice. It was their first gig, and I was like, "You want my pick?" And I gave him my pick. And that was the biggest rock star moment of my life.
It was Porch Coffin, Glazed, and Joyce Manor.
Let's just say that was a very, very built up night. It just kind of just collapsed.
One bad thing led to another.
Yeah.
It was like Jason was doing an awesome job keeping the show alive and doing what he could to like make it still happen.
That's what you would call it.
There was like, well, I'm saying like the venue wasn't able to hold capacity where it was originally at, so we had to relocate, and he was able to convince the city, I guess, to put this show on at a place that hadn't had a show in 20 years.
But the city didn't do any research about what kind of music was
It was
being
the
played.
only show I'd ever seen that didn't have a barricade and security in between.
Yeah.
And they were wondering why there were problems.
The barricade was just right up against the stage.
There were people from like teenagers to like people in their 50s, like just jumping up and down and having a good time. And the police's first reaction to like quelling the movement was violence, and it was unfortunate for us to see. It kind of traumatized all of us all, and you know, Liam and I were in the faces of like these police officers and security guards because we felt responsible. I think like just seeing teenagers get choke slammed by cops was terrible.
Yeah, friends and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just like, hey, why are you grabbing them like that? Let's just like get them back into the crowd. It's all good.
And
But
the security guards were getting emotional, and we were really using that to our advantage.
Yeah.
And I think that that'll probably never happen again.
Yeah.
We won't ever play a show like
No.
that, and
But
just against everything we
think
see.
we're
we
on
were
city
like,
shit
we were
this
so
month,
grateful
but-
that it still happened. It was just like it ended up just being a whole mess, and they called like the riot squad. So we were seeing people get, you know, we were just talking about it after. We were just like, this was supposed to be one of the best nights of our life, opening for a huge band that's like with a ton of people, and it just ends up being this moment that is now kind of like an emotional bruising.
Well, yeah.
Rather
it's a
than
ton
like
of
like
new
rather
people,
than like
too. Like a lot. There was
Yeah.
probably so many people's first show
Yeah.
in the experience.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah.
like
There was a
oh,
father and
God,
son who
you're
went,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
they were both moshing.
Yes.
And it was like that's a beautiful
It was
moment.
yeah,
that
it
was
was.
ruined
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
the cops yet again.
I
Seems like a
remember.
pattern.
I remember
Yeah.
it was like I remember the like we were playing and we started playing a song and like people started jumping and I remember the security was like, get 'em! And then like the people walked over to the people jumping and then we're like, hey, no jumping, and we're like,
Yeah, on the mic I told
But-
people to
yeah.
just hold their breath and stand still.
yeah, yeah.
Because like we would get shot at some point if we
Yeah.
smiled.
Well, that cop getting bumped around or the
Oh,
video
yeah.
or whatever that shit
There was a
going
cop who went into the mosh pit deliberately expecting someone to bump into him so he could have an excuse to
Grab them,
choke
yeah.
them, drag them out, and it was just unacceptable. Yeah, like we
Yeah.
didn't know it. Like moments
No.
before we got on stage, the promoter was like, "Yo, don't say anything to incite a riot." So no mosh pits, and then a cop will be on stage with you. And I was
Oh,
like,
we were
when
like,
did we
no
ever
way.
agree to any of this?
Yeah.
Like,
No.
we're just trying to fucking play a show.
No.
What I like about the Florida music scene is that it's scrappy, and if you live here, you'll just be. You might hear like, "Oh, this is a swamp. We're not meant to like build on here," or you're not meant to like swim in that river, or you're not meant to like eat this junk food. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of like, you're not meant to do this in Florida, and that I think is the vibe of existing as someone who wants to do art in Florida. I mean, yeah, like this region's politics are so fucked and religion ruins everything here, and but through that all, there's like pockets of community who really advocate for ourselves and each other to create spaces that we can exist and people can be themselves and not be afraid. And there's a perception, I think, about Florida everywhere else. And the bands here are, like I said, we're scrappy, and we have to constantly advocate for ourselves and make our spaces and invite others to realize we can make the change at a level that unites us. And yeah, it's scrappy here, but we get it done and we're persistent.
My first out of town show ever. Like first driving. I don't know, when I was 16, I still had to when I had a license, I still had to drive for 4 months before being able to ride with friends. You know what I mean? So I reached that mark. It took the vehicle that I had at the time, and we drove down to Gainesville, and I was like 16.
It was a vintage VW bus,
Yeah.
orange.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Orange, yeah.
Can't wait. Hey, chill.
I'm not gonna say go Gators.
So yeah. So we get down there, but it was to see Dikembe, the Hotel Year and State Lines, who's
The
now
Hotel Year, God.
the
That's
Hotel
a
Year, yeah,
throwback.
and State Lines, who's now Oso Oso. So I was like 16 years old. I hadn't seen it. I mean, Ian
Or
Murphy's
is it
the one
My
that
Hotel
like
Year?
from our friend group that really was like, hey, check out this band Dikembe, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like really seeing people. I mean, they're you know, like I think in college and stuff when I was still in high school, but seeing like, oh my gosh, like people are doing cool things and they're like doing it with what they got, and it's like it was the first time I was given. Steven gave like a I don't even know if they remember. Maybe they remember. I probably tell it to them all the time. But they gave me this their Chicago Bulls EP with like hand drawn like burnt CD like artwork on the CD, and oh my gosh, like I don't know. That was the car favorite.
Glazed is one of the best bands.
I fucking love Glazed.
I don't know how they're not like one of the most popular pop punk bands right now because they
The recordings sound
are
amazing.
straight up. Their recording sounds
Their
so
shows
good.
are so entertaining.
Yeah, and Justin writes the catchiest goddamn songs ever.
And they're just so good, and they're this band that exists in such a way to where they could play with hardcore bands, they could play with punk bands, they could play with emo bands, they could play with alternative bands, they could probably play with pop bands. I don't know if they've done it before.
Florida is great. It's okay here. There's good people.
There are good people.